Film has been around for more than 100 years, but what are my top 10 favourite films? Let's get into it. I'll be ranking these films based on 4 criteria: rewatchability, goosebumps, needle drops, and emotions. Let's see how they fare. In at number 10 is Hot Fuzz. I've loved this film for a long time. Edgar Wright does classic films, especially in his Cornetto trilogy. You've got action, comedy, ice cream. What's not to love? In Edgar Wright's films, you really get a sense of how important editing is in the construction of comedy and the story. These two go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. As you get invested in the story, you find the jokes even funnier because you're rooting for these characters. Although Hot Fuzz is a tour de force of references, it also pulls on an originality from getting all these different sources and making it into something brand new, which Edgar Wright is excellent at throughout all his films. In Hot Fuzz, a top-notch police officer from London gets moved to the quiet rural town of Sanford, where he then has to catch a killer. It's the second instalment of Edgar Wright's Cornetto trilogy and is arguably the cornerstone of contemporary British film. Wright's filmmaking style is instantly recognisable, extremely likeable, and the comedy is well structured as it's built into the fundamentals of the narrative. The British culture he injects into each of his films is always pleasing to see, whether that be cornettos, pubs, or Shakespeare plays. The overall pace is snappy, which really elevates the action and comedy, and has helped put Simon Pegg and Nick Frost on the map. Now on to the scoring. For Hot Fuzz, I'd give it a 9 out of 10 for rewatchability. I've seen this film countless times, and time after time, it still makes me laugh and entertained. It's so good at finding little niche references and injecting them into the narrative. Awesome. For Goosebumps, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. There are some really quite gory moments in this film that kind of surprise you for how far it's willing to go, and it takes it to that next level of appreciation. Needle Drops, I'd give it a 5. Not the best songs in the world, but it didn't have the biggest budget in the world, so it's to be expected. And then finally for Emotions, I'd give it an 8, because it makes me laugh every single time. You've got a moustache. I know.
Got a moustache. I know.
Next on the list, coming in at number 9, is this film, The Dark Knight Rises. I love this film. It's so cinematic in the best way. The visuals, the score, the direction, the characters. And I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I choose The Dark Knight? I know. But The Dark Knight Rises was the first of the Dark Knight trilogy that I watched in the cinema. The Dark Knight and Batman Begins was a little bit before my time, but I remember seeing The Dark Knight Rises with my dad and absolutely loving it. It blew me away. Even though I was a bit too young to enjoy it, I still found amazing moments. The Dark Knight Rises follows a new villain, Bane, a terrorist set on destroying Gotham. So, what else is there to do but for the Batman to don his cape again and come out and fight crime? It's very exciting. It's got lots of new characters, some Christopher Nolan regulars if you'll recognise them, and lots to enjoy. And now, onto the ranking. For The Dark Knight Rises, I'd give it a rewatchability score of 7. It's quite long and drawn out, but it's well worth the wait. But where the film really shines is in Goosebumps. The Goosebumps moments that make it special. The cinematic element that adds to it. These next level action sequences, like Bane at the start on the plane. Just exceptional. I'd give it a score of 9 out of 10. Next for Needle Drops, it's a Hans Zimmer score, so you know it's going to be good. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Not Hans Zimmer's best score, but still quite good. And then for Emotions, it's pretty good. It's pretty damn good. I'd give it another 7 out of 10. Next is a film I hold near and dear to my heart. a comedy called Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy. What is there left to say about Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy? It's a cult classic of a film. It's a 2000s comedy from 2004, and it's about a 70s news broadcaster and his mates just causing havoc in San Diego, I believe it's pronounced.
It's a fact. It's the greatest city in the history of mankind. Discovered by the Germans in 1904, they named it San Diego, which of course in German means a whale's vagina.
Now, Anchorman isn't very politically correct, but it is very funny. Will Ferrell puts in a great performance as a 70s news broadcaster called Ron Burgundy, who always wears burgundy. And he's surrounded by some of the best comedic talent of our generation. Steve Carell, Paul Rudd, David Kirchner, and Christina Applegate on the side. It's all very funny and definitely well worth a watch. Now on to the ranking. In terms of rewatchability, I would give Anchorman a 10. I could watch this endless amounts of times. It's so funny and ridiculous and irreverent. Definitely worth it. Next, for Goosebumps, it's not a big Goosebumps film. You don't get those ooh moments. But it's still alright, so I'd give it a 6. Needle Drops, it has some good songs in there. Can't remember them all off the top of my head now, but 6 again, 6 out of 10. I think that's fair. And then for Emotions, I include hilarity, comedy, and funniness in Emotion, so I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Definitely worth a laugh and a watch. Next up is the Christmas classic from 1940s America, It's a Wonderful Life, starring James Stewart and Donna Reed. This may be quite an unsuspecting pick, but I love this film. I only watched it recently, but I loved it to bits. It's quotable, it's a stone cold classic, it's funny, it's sad, it's heartwarming, it's got everything you want in a film. And it's got that black and white nostalgia feel. It's a Wonderful Life follows James Stewart's character as he navigates life going from a wannabe explorer in his youth to a banker and then a family man. This keeps going until he gets into debt and he can't escape it. He goes to commit suicide and then he's saved by an angel. But let's see where it goes from there. Will he still decide to end his life, or will he decide to carry on with his life? It's a very interesting film and a very heartwarming one. It's very good. Now on to the ranking. In terms of rewatchability, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. Obviously, you only really watch it around Christmas. That's the main time you'd watch it. But I see it as an all-round kind of film. It's very good for different seasons as well. In terms of Goosebumps, there are a lot of good Goosebumps scenes. I'd give it a 9 out of 10, especially the moon scene. The moon scene is the best.
What is it you want, Barry? What do you want? You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down. Hey, that's a pretty good idea. I'll give you the moon, Barry.
I'll take it. Then what?
Well, then you could swallow it. And it'd all dissolve, see? And the moonbeams would shoot out of your fingers and your toes and the ends of your hair.
In terms of Needle Drops, it's got a classic Hollywood score. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Very good. And then for Emotions, this is where it really hits home. I'd give it a 10 out of 10. Awesome. Coming in at number 6 is the only Marvel film of the list, Guardians of the Galaxy. Volume 1, of course. In my eyes, this is the best of the trilogy, and it shows just what James Gunn is capable of. A really good, really enjoyable sci-fi mixed with comedy, mixed with action. It's got everything you need and more, with performances from Chris Pratt and Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, and of course Bradley Cooper. When Peter Quill is abducted from Earth, he becomes an intergalactic thief known as a Ravager. However, he eventually goes rogue and joins several alien outlaws when he comes across the highly sought-after Infinity Stone. A mix of action, romance, comedy, and all-round fun, James Gunn gave a name to a ragtag group of misfits from the original Marvel Comics, who I'd previously never heard of before the 2014 film. The emotional core is Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, whose mum dies of cancer before he gets abducted into space. It's one of the few films I've watched the director commentaries for, and it was very rewarding getting to know the nitty-gritty of the film. And here we go, on to another ranking. In terms of rewatchability, I'd give it an 8. I've seen this so many times. It's enjoyable, you can bop your head to the music, and the action is just like hypnotic. It's very good. In terms of Goosebumps, there are a lot of Goosebumps moments, especially the ending. You know what I'm on about. And I'd give it an 8. In terms of needle drops, this is where the film really shines with those 80s tracks non-stop. I'd give it a 10 out of 10. And then for emotions, again, the ending is very good for this. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Here we have at number 5, Apocalypse Now, another stone cold classic from Francis Ford Coppola. You probably know him as the director of The Godfather, but in my eyes, this is the better film. Apocalypse Now is another just non-stop awesome train of emotions with songs from the Rolling Stones and the Doors and acting from, Marlon Brando. How can you beat that? That's just crazy. It follows Willard as he goes down the Mekong River in Vietnam to hunt down and assassinate Colonel Kurtz, who has gone insane. He does this with the help of a ragtag group of misfits from the army with Lawrence Fishburne. The scope of Apocalypse Now is unparalleled. It isn't like Vietnam, it is Vietnam. This is what Francis Ford Coppola said at, I believe, Cannes Festival in the 70s. It is Vietnam. That's how close he got. And here we go, on to another ranking. For rewatchability, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. I've seen this film a lot of times in the cinema and out. And it's so, so good. It ages like a fine wine. Next we have the Goosebumps section. I'd give this another 9 out of 10 because it really has you on the edge of your seat like a snail crawling along the edge of a razor. For needle drops, you've got the Rolling Stones and the Doors. This is a 9 out of 10 easy. It's so good. The songs just work very well, booming out of any kind of stereo system. And then for emotions, maybe this falters a little bit. It doesn't quite grab you. It's quite alienating and dehumanizing. I'd give this a 7 out of 10. Coming in at number 4, we have Damien Chazelle's La La Land, his critically acclaimed musical starring Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling. I mean, it's such a great film. The songs are absolute bops. The acting is great. It's bittersweet. It's very nice to watch. Anyone can watch it from any age. It's just awesome. It follows an actress and a musician as they follow their dreams in La La Land, Los Angeles, and go for that big fame. But will they make it? And will they fall in love along the way? You'll have to watch La La Land. Now on to my personal ranking. For rewatchability, I'd give it a 9. It's awesome. It's so good to listen to on Spotify. Just the songs. For Goosebumps, I'd give this a 7. It's quite good. Not as good as those big cinematic fight scenes, but still really good. I love a good musical, and this might be my favourite. For Needle Drops, this is a stone cold classic. I'm going to give it a 10. What's not to love? Another Day of Sun. Let's go for it. And Emotions, this is the core of the film. I'd give a 9 out of 10. Coming in at number 3 is a Western classic from 1966. Yes, I'm talking about Clint Eastwood's The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Blondie, or The Man with No Name, as he's called, comes back in this third film to go against the ugly Eli Wallach and the bad Lee Van Cleef across the desert. It's such a gripping film with easily the best score in perhaps all of cinema by Ennio Morricone. Very, very good. This time round, all three of them are trying to keep their heads while searching for some hidden gold. But will they find it? And which one will survive at the end of the day? You'll have to find out in The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Very, very good film. I'd recommend this. In terms of ranking, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly is the best of the Dollars trilogy. And for rewatchability, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. I've seen this a couple times and I love it every single time. For Goosebumps, the ending gunfight is amazing. And for that reason, for Goosebumps, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. Needle Drops, you've got Ennio Morricone's score, which is amazing. Just incredible craftsmanship. Another 10 out of 10. And then lastly, for Emotions, maybe not as good as the score, but still very high stakes, good emotions, a 7 out of 10. Go have a look. Here we have at number 2, Whiplash, another award-winning Damien Chazelle film starring Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons in amazing performances as teacher and student. It follows them as they try and make the most out of each other as this relationship that goes toxic, as one is the drummer and one is the conductor, trying to get to the pinnacle of music. But will they succeed? And how far will they go before they break? You'll have to find out in Whiplash. Very, very good film. Beyond being a film about music and jazz, I feel Whiplash is great about the toxicity of those student-teacher relationships, as well as the drive and passion people have. But how far is too far? And there is a healthy medium. But will he get to it, or will he drive off the edge? You'll have to find out in Whiplash. Now on to the scores. For rewatchability, I'd give it easily a 10. I've seen this maybe at least 3 or 4 times. Such a good film. Next, for Goosebumps, I'd give this an easy 9. An easy 9. It has such tense moments, especially that end scene. I'll say this for all of them. The ending is usually the best part of the film. Next, for Needle Drops, I'd give it an 8. Jazz isn't always my thing, but it works here. Bit Caravan, bit of Whiplash. Gotta like it. And then for Emotions, it's very high on emotions, very high octane. I'd give it a 10 out of 10. Finally, my number 1 film of all time. Those of you who know me know what it already is. Yes, it's The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I love this film to bits. It's just a great travel film, a great drama, a great comedy. It's got everything you need in there. A recipe for a success. It stars Ben Stiller, Adam Scott, Sean Penn, Catherine Hahn, all sorts of people contributing to this amazing, romantic, dramatic and funny film with great performances, great direction from Ben Stiller. Just a powerhouse of a film. Go watch it. It's very good. My favourite scene by far in it is the snow leopard scene. I think it's everyone's favourite scene with Sean Penn and Walter Mitty. It is so good. It's so life-affirming and heartwarming and just awesome to see. For rewatchability, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. For Goosebumps, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. Needle Drops, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. God Lover of Monsters and Men and Arcade Fire. Great songs. And Emotions, a 10 out of 10. Really hits you. Really hits you. Okay, that was my list. What do you think? Leave it in the comment section below. Say what your favourite films are. Say what you thought of my favourite films. And thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.